Hey, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of game and interactive media design. I had a student who wanted to ask me about adding a score widget in Unreal Engine, and so I'm using a little game that my daughters and I are creating for Game Jam, which is about this little fairy jumping around in this little bush. We were just starting, so all of these are stand-in assets, by the way. But I thought this would be fun for me to do. So, first things first, let's set up what we need to do. Number one, I need a widget with a score thing. So that's what I'm going to start first. I am going to place my widgets into a folder called widgets. I think that's going to be best. Widgest, no, widgets. I spelled it wrong. I'm going to right-click, say rename, and do that again. Widgets. Double-click that. I'm going to create a user interface component, and I'm going to choose a widget blueprint. I'm going to call it score, and I'm going to double-click it. And I come up to the designer section, and this is basically the screen. You all know that. I am going to add... I'm going to add something really simple, and it will be a text frame. I'm going to left click and drag text into the canvas panel. It's going to look like that. And I'm going to zoom in so I can actually work with this. And I'm going to drag it. I'm going to put it in the right part of the screen. And I'm going to drag this thing over to the right, and that's going to anchor it to the right side of the top right corner. Okay? Now, normally this is where you would also put, you'd set this up however you needed it, right? So some people might use a progress bar, some people might use a button, or maybe not a button. Some people might put a, what can you use? You can use, sorry. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, God. Sorry. What would I have done? Oh, like a list. Oh, yeah, what have I done in the past? I don't... Oh, a panel! I think that's what I would have done. A grid panel? Oh, a horizontal box you can put your text inside of a box and things like that, and you could put multiple things inside of a box. I don't know what you want to do. I am just going to delete that. I'm just going to choose a text block. Where'd you go? Oh man, all the way over here. And the other thing I'm going to do is add an image. Okay, so I'm going to left click and drag the image down here. All right. And I'm gonna be collecting gems, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a gem image really quickly. I'll be right back. So, okay, what I did was I went into the textures folder. I created a little folder that will capture some gems. I imported some PNG files of this gem I quickly drew just a moment ago, and I basically changed the hue a whole bunch of times, and I exported those or saved as that color changing as separate PNGs. So when I imported them all into my texture bin, I right-clicked them all and made sprites. So these ones are the textures, the ones with the blue background for some reason. He wanted to input them as normal maps, and I don't know why that hasn't happened before. So they're still blue for some reason. I'm not sure why. It doesn't set them as a normal map. It's just default, but it didn't change it. In any case, I set each one of those to be a... you know what? Let me just do it in front of you in case you want to know. I'm going to delete everything. Yes. Delete them. Yeah, I'll show you what I did. So I just imported these 8 gems. See, it says imported as a normal map. I'm going to revert them all to not a normal map. Great. Now these are textures. They're just textures. You can't really bring them into your game. Nothing will happen. So I'm going to hit Command Z. Oh, it turned... Oh, ha ha ha. It actually applied that texture to an image, I guess. I was going to do this and show you that you can't just drag it into your scene. If I were to have dragged it onto this backdrop, it's actually going to create a material from that. So that's not what I wanted to do. Let me show you what I want to do. I want to right-click them all. I want all of these to turn into a flipbook eventually that I'll be able to use. So I need to right-click these, but first turn them into sprites. Now a sprite is a game asset, so I can drag this sprite in here. And this is essentially a 2D plane with an image assigned to it, but also some other issues like it has a collision box around it, it renders geometry, it has a whole bunch of stuff that sprites do in video games. They use textures, they use PNGs and JPEGs, but they don't, they're not the same. That's like a little step forward. In addition to that, we're going to even go forward. We're going to take all of these sprites, right-click, and turn them into a 2D flipbook. And I'm going to call that gem FB for flipbook. And that takes them all together and allows them to like create an animation. You see? This is like our people running is going to be a flipbook. Okay. But what I want to focus on is the widget right now. And in this case, I want this image here, that is the image that I grabbed from the palette here, brought it into the canvas. I'm going to look at the brush under appearance of this image in my canvas, and I'm going to set this image to be one of those textures. I need gem texture 1. And I can scale this up, and that gem has a PNG, or has an alpha background, and so there's that. This text block is going to be attached to my player sprite. So before I change this, let me go ahead, compile this, save it. And I need to now go into my 2D side-scroller BP, go into my blueprints, go into my character blueprint. This is where I'm storing all of the data, right? All of the stuff that happens in my, that I kind of grab. Sorry, I forgot I was talking. This is where I'm going to do my score. And so I'm going to create a variable called score. And this variable is going to be an integer. So I'm going to set that to an integer, because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. If it was like, your score is 4.271, I don't know, if you wanted to do that, that would be a float. This is an integer. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to compile that and save it. And now I'm going to hook up this text block and hook it up to the score, so it shows the score of my player. All right. Okay, so I am in my widget, and I'm going to select that text block, and I want to show something. We are going to bind this to the score in the player character blueprint. So if you click on the bind button next to the text of the text block, we just have something that says create binding. Don't do that yet. Or at least that's not how I do it. So I'm going to show you this way. Graph, go to your graph, and under event pre-construct, I'm going to, first of all, right near it, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say cast to, and I'm going to cast to my player character. In this case, it's 2D side-scroller character. In your case, it might be a puzzle character, or it might be something else. I'm just going to cast to that character. And from object, I'm going to say get player pawn. It has to know, yeah, get player pawn. Yours might be different. I think the 3D player, it's slightly different. I'm not sure. You'll have to get either player character or get player pawn. From here, I'm going to grab out the as 2D side-scroller character button, and I'm going to promote that to a variable. What that does is it creates a a character variable. Okay, and I'm going to call this my character. And now I'll be able to reference that throughout the graph, the event graph. I'm just going to hook this up so that pre-construction, it runs this just once. I only have to run it once. I'm going to compile it and save it. Now when I go back to Designer and I select that text block, and I come over here under the details, under content, and bind that, I actually now shows my character, and I can bind that to the score. And I can click that, and this score is going to be whatever the score happens to be. So I'm going to save that, compile that, and of course we won't see anything yet because in our level here, we haven't actually set anything to use that widget. So under Blueprints, Open Level Blueprint, I'm going to say right-click, Event Begin Play. I'm going to drag this out. I'm going to create widget. And when I create that widget, I need to select which class, the score class. And we're not done yet. We have to actually add to viewport and drag this return value up to the target, and that should show our score. Let me go ahead and run this. Well, it should, but it doesn't, so I'm going to escape here. Why doesn't it show it? It doesn't show it because if I go to my player character, double-click in here, click in my event, or click my score. Oh, how is that a Boolean? Oh my gosh, it's an integer. Now we can save that, compile it. Score is set to 0. That makes so much more sense. Play. Now we have that set. Okay, it's playing in my viewport, and so what I actually want to do is play this in my new editor window. And why is that so far away from the corner? That's so weird. Let me go back to my widget. Oh, okay, because it's kind of... Oh! Drag this over here, my friend. Drag that there. Oh, that's why! Drag this anchor. These anchors are really important. I want this stuff to be set to the right corner. There. Save that, compile that, play it. It still looks pretty far away from the corner. I'm not sure what's going on. This is like the first time that seems to be happening for me. Okay. And now in the next video, I'm going to show you how we actually make that score increase. Okay? All right, bye!